I think do you guys hear that when it says this meeting's being recorded? Okay. I think to many people, gut health sounds like a very complicated thing to work on. Like, there are even gut specialists and like it just seems like, oh, it's a lot to do. And when we think gut health, we think probiotics or we think, like bloating or whatever. But managing and maintaining a healthy gut does not have to be difficult. And we're going to talk about how to, take care of your gut step by step. In a non-difficult way. So let's get into it. Now, we're going to talk about a few things here that will majorly help you have a healthy gut. And we're going to talk about eating the rainbow. We're going to talk about probiotics a bit, and then we're also going to talk about fermented food. What many people also don't know is that your gut health is tied to almost every like big system in your body. Think of like your immune system. If you're someone who tends to get sick often, managing your gut health will probably help you have a stronger immune system. Same thing, it also has something to do with our hormones. So if we're experiencing any kind of like imbalance with our hormones, or maybe we have irregular periods, working on your gut can only help because your gut health is also directly tied to hormones. It's tied to like everything really. It's even tied to how we think, so it's everything. And that's why it's very important that we work on gut health. And if we do ever experience things like bloating or trouble with digestion or even skin issues like acne, eczema, a lot of things are really there to tell us, hey, maybe we should start focusing on our gut. And it doesn't have to be like a very complicated thing for us to deal with. So I got this from the person who wrote Fiber Fueled. He's a plant-based gut microbiome, or I'm sorry, no, gastroenterologist. He's the bomb. The book is amazing. He's the single greatest predictor of a healthy gut microbiome is the diversity of plants in one's diet. So having, like, for example, we talk a lot about a whole food plant-based diet here, and I'm always trying to really drive this home, because nowadays it's so easy for us to get like, oh, I hope I don't get like attacked by bugs here. It's so easy for us to get these processed vegan food items like really anywhere now. I mean, you can even go to grocery stores that are usually not that vegan friendly, and now they at least have like the very standard, you know, Dia, Beyond. Like it's easy to access a lot of these things. So it's becoming easier and easier for us to have like just as much of an unhealthy diet as a standard American diet. In the past, veganism was kind of like synonymous with like vegetables, health. Like, I mean, when a lot of us went vegan, we thought, oh, I'm just gonna eat salad all the time now, because we didn't know that there were so many different options available. And in the past, I would say like a vegan diet used to be a lot healthier than it is now, because it was mainly just plants. We didn't have all of these things accessible to us. So we have to kind of go back to where this all came from and make sure that we're putting a lot of variety into our diets. And by default, that is a whole food plant-based diet. That is, focusing less on your tofu, on your tempeh, focusing less on, the processed meat items, and going back to the food that's grown from the ground. And the wonderful thing about plant foods, it's that they are like the perfect package. Every plant has its own mix of gut healing fiber and unique healing properties. So it's one thing, like, yes, we want to make sure we're eating a lot of fruits and veggies. That's one thing, but we want to be sure that the diversity is there too, because every plant offers something unique, not just for our gut, but just in general for healing our bodies. So I know sometimes it's easy to just eat kind of like the same things all the time. And I want to encourage you to do what's going to be the simplest and the easiest for you to stick to, while also considering, okay, how do I get diversity at the same time? So we'll talk about how to do that, because I don't want you to stress about like, oh my gosh, I need to be changing up my meals all the time in order for me to get like all this diversity, and then stress yourself out trying to figure out how to do all this. The beautiful thing is every single plant food has its own microbiome. And studies have shown that the microbiome in the plant works really well with the microbiome in our bodies. So it's kind of like this beautiful dance that plants have with our body. Like it's almost like, what do you know? It's like we were made to eat a lot of plants. So kind of like this special relationship. But let's talk about it here. Like there's this little table I got from that book, Fiber Fueled. It's a book about how to basically heal your gut, and it takes a plant-based approach, which is really cool. But if we talk about like eating the rainbow, here are all these different types of foods and all the different ways in which they not only benefit our body but also our gut. So, like we have red fruits and vegetables like tomatoes and watermelon and how they contain their own phytochemicals and their own benefits. We have orange fruit like carrots, fruits and vegetables like carrots, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, and they do something totally different. And then we have green and white. So like literally we want to be eating the rainbow so that way we make sure we're getting all of this goodness instead of worrying about each individual, like, oh, I need this or I need that. Like, don't worry about each individual benefit. By eating the rainbow, we're getting all of it. So you can do this a couple of different ways. Like, yes, I love me a Buddha bowl, and that's why we put together the meal plan template so you get lots of diversity. So yes, you can totally just eat lots of fruit, lots of veggies. But what I have found to be the easiest is finding your core meals that you just enjoy, you like. They're easy for you to prep every single week. It's easy for you to stick to your calorie goal and your nutrition goals, and it makes sense for your life. But then including things like smoothies, because with a smoothie you can mix up the ingredients all the time. You throw in some dates or some like pineapples in there and it's always going to taste great, right? Like you can put kale and spinach and chard and ginger and like all of these things that maybe individually are kind of bitter or kind of acidic, and you throw them in there with some bananas and pineapple and you have like a really delicious like tropical smoothie. The benefit to doing a smoothie versus like a pressed juice is we want to keep the fiber of the plant with the food. So like for example, when you drink a fresh pressed juice, it has amazing like healing properties as well because you're extracting all of like the goodness from the plant food without the fiber. In some cases, eliminating the fiber is good because we're allowing our body to easily access the juices that are in the fruit and vegetable without us having to chew it and break it down and giving our body that work. So we just get to access it quickly and easily. However, sometimes this can give smoothies a bad rap as if fiber is bad or as if we like don't want to have that extra work to break down the food and access the nutrients. We want to keep the fiber most of the time in our food. So like obviously with the smoothie, you're throwing in the strawberry whole, you're throwing in the pineapple with its pulp and with the little strings in it. You're throwing in your celery without removing the skin. You're actually eating the plant as a whole instead of pulling out parts of it. I feel as though plants are designed very beautifully where we want the whole thing. We don't want just a part of it. For a healthy gut microbiome, there's also enough science to show that our body also prefers the whole and not just the juice or not just certain nutrients from it. So the amazing thing about doing things like smoothies is you could get to have like the entire leafy green, the entire berry with the skin, with the seed, with the pulp, and that's really what helps like re-energize the gut. So you have to kind of figure out what's more desirable for you. Some people much prefer to eat like really big salads and Buddha bowls with tons of different varieties, and they want to like eat the different plant foods in that way. Or if you're more like someone who just wants a convenience and wants to be able to throw stuff into a blender and have it taste good, and you can also do something like a smoothie. This is another part of the laundry list of reasons why we start our day with a smoothie, because we're getting a lot of the most important things into our gut, into our gut first thing in the morning, like prioritizing it above everything else before the busy day. So smoothies are a wonderful gut healing food. Now, there's one particular plant variety that I want to emphasize, and well, there's a compound called sulforaphane. This is found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, of course, kale, Brussels sprouts, arugula, cauliflower, but also in very high quantity in broccoli sprouts. So broccoli sprouts is basically just a little baby broccoli that has not yet matured. However, in that little sprout, it has the intelligence of a whole broccoli plant. So you can eat loads and loads and loads of broccoli or cruciferous vegetables, or you can have, you know, a handful of broccoli sprouts and get way more of the sulforaphane than you would by having a huge bowl of Brussels sprouts and broccoli. Now, the cool thing about sulforaphane is not only does it protect us from cancer, detoxifies the body of free radicals and cellular damage, improves mood, anxiety, depression, all this stuff, but it's also one huge key in repairing the gut microbiome. So, um, it also helps correct gut dysbiosis, which is basically like an imbalance in the gut. It's kind of like a broad word for just imbalance in general. It also increases healthy gut microbes. So, this is like one of those magical gut foods that not only has so many healing properties in other areas of the body, but it's amazing for our gut. And it also allows us to not have to eat tons of cruciferous vegetables. We just have, you know, a little handful of broccoli sprouts, throw it in your salad, throw it in your smoothie, throw it in your tacos. Like, you can put this stuff anywhere because it's very mild in taste, and it goes a super long way. Broccoli sprouts are amazing, and many people don't know that they're very easy to sprout at home. Like, you don't have to pay $6 at Whole Foods to get a little tiny container of broccoli sprouts. In fact, I have like you guys have seen those like half-gallon mason jars, right? Those really big ones. With just a few tablespoons of the seeds, you can fill an entire half-gallon mason jar with sprouts. And it takes about 3 to 4 days to do it at home, from taking it to a little seed to a whole thing of sprouts. And really, all you do is you just like, when you first put the seeds into the mason jar, you add a little bit of water, you let that sit overnight in dark, and then you kind of rinse them twice a day for 3 to 4 days, and you just slowly see them sprout. So it's a great way to guarantee quality of sprouts because you're not worried about how they're handled or who's, you know, if there's any junk being put in them. But it's also super cheap. You can get a whole container of broccoli seeds for like $5 and make 4 or 5 batches of huge containers of broccoli sprouts. So easy to make. Like, it would be, yeah, it's something y'all should really look into. But if you don't want to worry about sprouting your own, you could just buy them. It's honestly worth it. So let's talk about probiotics as well, because this is something that many people go to, like if they have any signs of gut dysbiosis, like, oh, I should get a probiotic. Or if like they tell their doctor, hey, I'm having, you know, issues with digestion or whatever, they'll usually tell you, oh, you should get on a probiotic. But something that people don't realize is probiotics are not an end all be all. It takes experimentation in order to figure out what is the probiotic that you need. You may have noticed on the containers of probiotics, it'll say contains like 1 billion bacteria, or contains 5 different strains. And it's kind of like, okay, I don't really know what I need, but I guess the more the better. And in some cases that's true, but everyone has their own unique gut microbiome. It's dependent on our lifestyle, on our diet, on our stress levels, everything. Like, so much of our lives will affect our gut microbiome and will affect which bacteria we have a plethora of and which ones are struggling and maybe we need more of. When we're taking a probiotic, it's a guessing game because we don't really know which bacteria are lacking or which bacteria are taking over. So we're basically putting in a capsule into our body that just has a lot of different kinds and hoping that like whichever ones we need, those grow. And we're like putting the right kind in. So sometimes you might take a probiotic and not notice any difference because perhaps what was in that probiotic capsule is not what you actually needed. Maybe it was this type of bacteria that you needed, but it didn't come in high quantities in that probiotic. So sometimes you have to really experiment with a few different kinds and see which one helps. But it's also very important that you don't expect a probiotic to do any type of like life-changing like gut intervention for you. Your best bet is to go back to what we talked about here and incorporate a lot of plant foods because it's going to have a lot bigger of an impact on your gut health than relying on like a probiotic. So I'm not saying you shouldn't take one. I am saying maybe use it as like just part of your regimen. And if it doesn't work, try a different one and see if that helps. And also, if you find one that does work, stick to that one because likely it's giving your body what it needs. The crazy thing too with probiotics is if it works for you now, there's no guarantee that that same probiotic will work for you next year, because maybe stress levels will change, maybe you move, maybe your diet changes, and things in your gut microbiome change. So it's kind of like a constant guessing game, which is why I don't want you to like kind of expect a probiotic to cure any type of gut dysbiosis for you. Now, the third thing is fermented food. I'll try to make this quick because I know we're running out of time here. Fermented food is amazing because in this fermented food, there are a lot of different bacteria. So fermented foods help balance the bacteria in the gut by lowering the pH, helps reduce inflammation in the gut and promotes weight loss, restores the right microbes in the gut. So I feel as though not I feel as though, I know as though fermented foods paired with your plant diversity are going to do a whole lot more for you than a probiotic. So the moral of this story is to get a ton of variety into your food. So focus on things like smoothies. Make sure that when you are making your own meals that you're incorporating a lot of diversity. And this doesn't have to be complicated. Like one week, maybe you have spinach on your grocery list. Then the next week do kale, and the next week do chard, and the next week do arugula, and the next week, like just kind of rotate through. So that way you're getting a little bit of everything. Same thing with, oh, my fire alarm's going off now. Someone's cooking. Same thing with like what you're topping your food with. Like one week do cherry tomatoes, one week do cucumbers, one week do, oh my goodness, now my dogs are freaking out. So basically just change up what you include in your meals. So stick with the core things that you enjoy, stick with the meals that you enjoy, keep it simple for you and your schedule, and then just change the toppings or change the things that are easy to rotate through. That will get all the plant diversity that you need for a healthy gut. I'm going to end it there because I'm sure this alarm is going to get really annoying for you guys. But that's it. Any questions before we hop off?
Yeah, could you like do a little video on the broccoli sprouts? I'd love to see like something.
Yes, I have one. I can tag you in it. I have one on Instagram. So
Oh,
hey,
okay,
let me
perfect.
close the door again. 1 second. Yeah, I did one on Instagram. I can tag you. Actually, I'll just put it in the group. But it's so easy. You guys are going to be like, why haven't I done this my whole life? It's so simple. And it's actually kind of fun too, because it's like if you tend to kill plants like I do, it's kind of nice to have like basically a little broccoli seed garden. It's very difficult for it to go wrong. Like you rinse it twice a day, you drain it, you rinse it, you drain it, and like they just grow and do their thing. It's really cool. But yeah, it's fun. It's like a cool little hobby.
My aunt, she used to do it with raw nuts. She used to like sprout them in a jar. It's supposed to be like really good for you, I guess. It kind of reminds me of that, what you were saying.
Interesting. I
It
didn't
must
know
be
that people
a
did that.
probiotic thing. I don't know. I think it's supposed to be good for your digestion, but she would do it like with almonds, I think. I can't remember, but it
And
had to
what
be
would it turn
raw.
into?
They sprouted, and then she would just put like the sprouted nuts on her like salads and stuff. So I tried it.
Wow.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because you
Oh, well,
like.
this definitely is not a lot of work. That's why I like recommend it for everyone. The cool thing too is you can sprout all kinds of stuff. You can sprout like mung bean, you can sprout like uh shoot, what was it? Wheatgrass. Like it's really easy. No, I'm sorry, not wheatgrass, alfalfa. Which is fun. Like those are really great salad toppers too. Like they taste nice and refreshing, especially now that the weather is getting warmer. Having like nice cool dishes is kind of like my vibe lately. So and you can pair a lot of these things with fruit too. So like if you're having like one in the Ultimate Food Guide, there's a really good cucumber salad, and there's also a really good like fruit salad that contains watermelon and cherry tomatoes and stuff. And these taste amazing in those because they don't have a very powerful flavor. It's like very mild, so it just adds like a nice little kick. If you're ever making an avocado toast, putting like the sprouts on top of that, so it's fun. But just remember that broccoli sprouts specifically are the ones that have the gut healing properties. So even if you start experimenting with other ones and you have fun, which you should, remember that they're not the same as broccoli sprouts.
Where did you get the broccoli sprout seeds? Did you order them
On
online?
iHerb, let me show you. So This website is a great alternative from like getting stuff at Whole Foods or Amazon. I actually like them a little bit better because their whole thing is just based off of like health foods. And I like to support like smaller businesses aside from Amazon, you know. So here, this is what they look like. Broccoli sprouts. So this is the little container that I got. Oh no, I'm sorry. No. These are tablets. I wouldn't get the tablets because like notice here, this is a container. It's $5 and it doesn't come with a lot. Like the containers maybe like halfway full, but it will give you enough to sprout like 4 or 5 times. And every time you sprout, I'm telling you, you can fill up majority of a half-gallon mason jar with sprouts, which is a lot. Like many times I put in a little too much and I have to throw some away because we don't go through them fast enough. So one, if you're the only one eating them, it can last you for quite a while.
That's cool. I'm gonna get it.
Super simple and saves you a bunch of money because I don't know why like Whole Foods they make the sprouts like so expensive for just a small little container. Like, okay, $6 for 2 salads worth of broccoli sprouts. Like that's not much.
Yeah, and it probably comes in like a plastic.
It comes in plastic.
Yeah, so it's like
yeah, I feel you.
That's
Any
cool.
other questions? Digestion related?
Do you like kimchi as like a fermented thing? I know sometimes it's not always vegan, but I find one at Whole Foods that I really like. It's like
Whole Foods and Sprouts has a vegan kimchi. Sauerkraut is great. Trader Joe's has a really tasty sauerkraut. These are like they add a nice little crunch to pretty much any dish. Real quick before we finish today's workshop, I want to emphasize that we want to incorporate all three of these in order to really properly heal our gut and kind of get every angle here. We don't only want to do broccoli seeds, or we don't only want to do the probiotic, or only want to do the plant diversity. You want to incorporate all of them, especially if you have a history of like not the best digestive system, or like you experience a lot of bloating, or just signs that you're not digesting properly. Incorporating this trio of the probiotic, the fermented food, and the broccoli seeds, as well as eating the rainbow, it's going to do so much to heal your gut. Even if you already had a history of like leaky gut or something else, it'll help tremendously. So don't just do like one, make sure you focus on all three.
Do you take a certain probiotic, or like you said,
I actually don't take one right now.
Yeah, it's so hard, and they're kind of expensive.
They're expensive.
Especially like the live ones that are like in the fridge and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't really seen or felt much of a difference with any of the ones I've taken. So I find that in general, when my diet is on point and I'm eating a lot of raw fruits and veggies, like I just feel a lot lighter in general. Like bowel movements are easy and, predictable. So I think the more you get away from eating the rainbow, you tend to have more questionable digestion just regardless, because we're not putting like very helpful things into our body. And a lot of these processed foods take a lot to digest. They're high in fat, they're high in preservatives, and those things in general are just hard to break down. So I think, there's one though in the refrigerated section at Sprouts, not at Whole Foods. It's like an apple. It's called Acidophilus, and I think it's from Nature's Way. I wonder if they even have it here where I can look it up real quick. Let me check. Acidophilus. I don't think, well, it's refrigerated, so it might not be on iHerb because don't know how they would ship that. Check it out. There are some in the refrigerated section. The reason why I like that one is it just tastes really good. And if there's a possibility that it's helping, I'm like, okay with it. But yeah, probiotics are generally pretty expensive. So you have to really invest yourself in figuring out the right probiotic for you, or just go hard on the plant diversity, on the broccoli sprouts and the fermented food. And you're actually going to go a longer way than a probiotic.
And kombucha would be one of the like fermented things, right?
It is, but it's not as powerful as a kimchi or a sauerkraut.
Yeah, I don't really even like kombucha that much. I could just get it randomly, and then I'm like, the randomness of it probably isn't really helping that much.
Yeah, but also consider like the little things that we do for our body, they do help. Like it's probably not going to transform your gut just by itself, but adding in little things here and there and just doing that often will be helpful. But yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to do a fermented food, the kombucha doesn't pack as much power as people think. You're better off with the kimchi or a sauerkraut.
I love both those things too, so I'm all about the fermented foods.
Me too. Me too, especially on warm seasons where you just want something like fresh, you know?
So you mentioned that it was, sorry, I know we're over, but I'm like, this
You're
is
fine.
so many things. So like there's this one girl on Instagram and she's always like posting herself after she eats a meal. And then she's like, look at my belly. And like it's supposed to be like a body positive thing. But then when you
Right.
said something about like bloating, like what is normal bloating and what's not? Like
Bloating is not normal. Bloating
okay.
is common, but it's not normal. And that's, I think people really need to make sure that their wording is right, because I agree with you all over social media. You see, this is so normal. No, it's not normal. It's common. It's
Like what
not
did
normal.
you eat?
Yeah, no. I mean, your body's telling you something. And sometimes, like if you're having like a very high fiber meal, like you're having like a 6-bean chili, okay, that's kind of a lot for your body to break down. It's not bad, but you might experience some bloating. But if someone is bloating all the time, it's common and we're making it normal, it's not normal. That's a very quick, like if your body's responding to something. So not to say that it's like red flags, you should be worried or your health is in jeopardy. It's not, but it's telling you your body's having a hard time with this. So if you experience bloating on occasion or like around your period, that's, I do say that's normal. But you will find the more plant variety in your diet, the cleaner the diet, the less you experience bloating. Now, if you're going from a kind of like a standard American vegan diet where it's a lot of processed food and like fake cheese and stuff, and you go towards a whole food plant-based diet, you will experience bloating because the intake of fiber is going to increase a lot. And when we don't have like a transition period, your body is like, whoa, this is like a lot of fiber, and that goes away. So if you are in that stage, just know that that is okay. But if you just always are bloated, then we need to give your body some love, your gut health some love, and that's what we discussed here, is focus on these things, and then you should see an improvement with bloating.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't really notice too much bloating, but sometimes I'm like, at the end of the day, maybe I'm like, maybe I'm just full.
It could be just full. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you said, it is like because it is a lot more like fiber. I think a lot more beans than I'm used to. So I think that's
Yeah.
with it too.
Yeah, definitely. And what will help with that, if you tend to be prone to bloating with beans, is soak them for a few hours beforehand or even overnight if you can.
Okay.
Instant pot, if you have a pressure cooker, it's also supposed to help, because the bean has a little compound in it, so you don't eat it. Like every plant has something in it, so you don't eat it, right? Everything is created to survive. So it's created to survive against predators and different things. So your beans, it has like a little casing that protects the bean. So what we want to do is we want to soak it so that way it kind of mimics like a sprouting time. So the bean kind of lets go of this little shield that it has to protect it, so it doesn't sprout prematurely. So like in the winter season, anyway, I don't know like specifically when a bean lets go of that little chemical, but I know for sure when you sprout it, when you soak it, it does. Same thing with a pressure cooker, it'll kind of kill off that little compound that stops it
Dry
from.
beans.
I'm sorry.
You mean dry beans? You should say.
Dried beans.
Okay.
Oh yeah, if they're canned, I don't really know how they prepare those exactly, but if you're having dried beans, soaking them first. If they're already made, I don't know, it's probably too late to
Right.
do much with it.
Well,
Yeah,
they're
dried
already
beans.
kind
So
of soaking in something in a can.
yeah, if they're canned, you kind of just have to take it as it is. But dried beans, soak them. Same thing like with cashews or a lot of nuts. They say like to soak them because it has a similar thing. It's like it'll kind of let go. I believe it's called lectins, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look into this a little bit more. I don't want to like, don't quote me on that, but I
Sounds
just know
right,
that
though. Sounds
you're
familiar.
you're greatly helping your body digest the bean when it's soaked first,
Yeah.
or
I
when
guess
it's.
that's why my aunt was soaking all the nuts.
Yeah, I'm sure that was part of it.
Well, cool. Thank you.
Of
It's really nice.
course. Thank y'all for being here. Have a great rest of your week. If you have any, I'll make sure I tag you guys in that sprouting video.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to find us.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye, you too.